Hello everyone, it's Mostrino here, and I've had this idea for quite a while now. I've wanted to make some videos going over basically everything I know when it comes to making mashups, comes to making mixes, especially the types of mashes and mixes that you would hear on the mix contest, because for those of you who didn't know, I was actually selected as a finalist to the mix contest in 2021. And while there are definitely a few resources that help with making mixes and mashups, they're not nearly as comprehensive as I would like them to be, which is why I decided to make these videos to try and share some information that you might not be able to find anywhere else. Especially considering for the mix contest, I feel like in recent years there have been a lot of people who maybe enjoy making mixes but have been unmotivated to submit to the mix contest. I know that last year they kind of made a point like, look, everyone here has been submitting to the mix contest for multiple years. And I mean, I get why they made that point for the finalists to kind of show off, look, if you keep trying, eventually you'll get in. But I can also see why for some people who are thinking about submitting to the mix contest, it can be a little bit demotivating if you're thinking, okay, I want to start submitting to the mix contest, but I'm going to have to try again all these years until I'm finally going to be able to get in. Is it even worth me starting out? So that's part of why I wanted to make these videos, because I feel like if you can get a lot of this information right off the bat, it'll be much easier to get to the level where you need to be in order to become a finalist, and hopefully it'll encourage you a bit more to try and improve your mixing and mashing skills. And maybe you want to give a shot at the contest, or maybe you just want to improve your mixing and mashing skills for your own projects. Either way, I hope that these videos can help, because that is kind of the purpose of them, is to help you guys in that regard. Anyways, the way that I'm kind of going about this is I'm going to do multiple videos, and each one's going to center on like a different topic. Today, this first video, as you could probably tell from the title, is going over the fundamentals. Most of these first few videos should be some of the more fundamental stuff, some of the more basic stuff. And as we get further and further, we get into kind of the more complex, more specific stuff. So if you already know everything in these first few videos, you're already kind of familiar with mixes and mashups, I would still encourage you to keep watching along, because I think everyone at every level can learn at least something over the course of all of these videos. So I encourage you to stick around. If you have any questions, or if there's something that you want me to cover that I did not cover, I've got a Discord server that I've got linked in the description, and you can go ahead and join it and let me know, because as of right now I'm going to be doing 7 videos, but I am very open to adding an 8th if there are things that I missed or things that I want to expand upon. So yeah, go ahead and join, and we can chat over there, and I think that would be splendid. For these videos, I'm going to be using FL Studio, because that's just the DAW that I always use, both for music and mixes and mashups. But most of these tips should be applicable to every DAW. Maybe some of the specific buttons and whatnot will vary from DAW to DAW, but if you use a different DAW, I encourage you to watch regardless, because I think that there will still be quite a bit of useful information here for you. I think that's everything that I wanted to cover, so let's just get right into what I wanted to talk about for this video. The first thing that I wanted to talk about is, making sure tracks are in the right BPM and how to change the tempo of tracks. So the track that I'm going to be using as the example for this is going to be Ascend by J Cosmic. And I would personally strongly recommend having Monstercat Gold to get high quality wave files of all of the tracks that you need. It is what I use personally to get these files, and it makes it super easy and super convenient. Of course, this only works for Monstercat tracks. If you're looking for tracks that are outside of Monstercat, I know NCS does downloads on their website as well, although those are only in MP3s. And as far as other tracks, check if they have a download on their SoundCloud and whatnot. But as far as Monstercat goes, Monstercat Gold is the way to go. There are some tracks that you can't use, but I'm not going to talk about those right now. I'll cover those in video 7. So anyways, we've got Ascend right here, and I've set my project's tempo to 150 BPM, because that is the BPM of Ascend. And if you're wondering, how do you figure out keys and BPMs? Because I know BPMs are on the website, but if you're looking for, a comprehensive list of all of the keys and all of the BPMs, there are quite a few resources. The one that I use personally is mCatalog, which I can link in the description as well. But you can ask other finalists what they use as well, because I would imagine probably not all of them use mCatalog. But I'll link that in the description as well. That has all the keys and all the BPMs. The key notation can get a little complex depending on what tracks you're looking at. So if you have any questions about that, again, just hop in the Discord and I can definitely talk about those. But anyway, that is how I know that Ascend by J Cosmic is 150 beats per minute and is in F sharp minor. And if we were to look on the Monstercat player, it also has the BPM listed correctly as 150, but the Monstercat player doesn't tell you anything about the keys, which is why having a tool like mCatalog is very useful. Now let's say we want to change the BPM. What do we want to change it to? Let's say we want to change it to 140. As you can see, now that I changed the project's BPM to 140, the track is no longer synced, and if we put another track that's 140 on it, they're not going to match up because this one is 150. So to change the BPM, you're going to want to double click the track, and something like this should pop up. And some of these controls are going to be useful, like volume, pitch we'll talk about in just a minute. But what we want to focus on right now is this time stretching. If you right click on the time knob and click auto detect, all of these buttons up here are just for like drum loops and stuff that have really obvious BPM that like the machine can detect. But since we know the BPM, we're going to want to go into type in BPM, and you're going to want to type in the BPM of the track, not the BPM that we want it to be in, but the BPM of the track itself. So in this case, we want it to be in 140, but the track itself, Ascend, is in 150. So we type in 150. And now, just like that, this whole thing is synced up with the metronome again. And it's in 140 BPM. But as you probably noticed, the pitch changed. And I would imagine that in most cases, you don't want the pitch to change while you're changing the tempo. But luckily, that has an easy fix. These modes right here for the time stretching will allow you to change the BPM without changing the pitch. We're going to talk about the Stretch Pro mode that they added a few months ago in video 4, so I'm just going to kind of set that aside for now, and we'll just go with the classic stretch mode. And now as I click stretch, you will see that it changed BPM, but the pitch didn't change. So yeah, there you go. That's how you change the BPM of any track. And what's really nice is, now that it's on stretch, if we change the BPM of the project file, it will automatically change to be in that BPM as well. So if we want it to be 160, it's still lined up, and now it's in 160. Now I'm going to get it back in its normal tempo, and I'm going to reset this, turn it back to resample, turn the time knob to 0. And now let's talk about changing key, getting it in the right key. And if you're wondering, well, what does a track's key even mean? Well, it tells you two things, basically. First is it tells you what notes a track uses. And the reason why this is important is because certain notes, when you put them together, they tend to sound very off, they tend to sound very dissonant, and especially for something like the Mix Contest, if you have something that sounds dissonant, chances are that's not going to go well. So you're going to want to make sure that both tracks use the same notes. But the other thing that a key tells you is it tells you which note is kind of the most important, the home note of the track. And that I'm going to talk a little bit less about, but basically the one thing to take away from that is if I pull up these relative music modes from the mCatalog, you'll see that in case this table looks confusing at first, we can sort of mentally block all of these guys for now. And mentally block these guys. And by mentally block, I'm also like visually hiding them so that it's easier, right? And just see, the big takeaway with this is like if you have a track in C sharp minor, it's going to use the same notes as in E major. So then you might be thinking, well, what's the difference between C sharp minor and E major? In very oversimplified terms, a track that is in C sharp minor tends to focus on C sharp, whereas a track that's in E major tends to focus on E and kind of use that as its prominent note. But the notes that they use are the same. They might not necessarily work together as well as two C sharp minor tracks would, but they use the same notes, so you can usually get away with them. And there's a lot more that I can talk about in terms of keys and some of these other modes that I've hidden, but I'm going to save that for one of the later videos if I do talk about it, and just kind of leave it at that for now. The other thing that I want you to notice with this is, how do you know where and how much to pitch a track? Looking at the piano roll in FL Studio or in whatever DAW you're using should hopefully give a useful hint. The higher you go in terms of going up or down corresponds with going higher in pitch or going lower in pitch. So C sharp is 1 above C, D is 1 above C sharp, and you get D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C. Notice that there's no E sharp between E and F, and no B sharp between B and C. Those get skipped. But if you ever have trouble remembering these, you can again just go into the piano roll and think about, okay, this track is in F sharp minor, and I want it to be in A minor. How much do I need to pitch it if I just want to pitch the F sharp minor one? Well, just count 1, 2, 3. You're going to want to pitch it up 3. You could also pitch this one up 1 and this one down 2, or you could pitch this one down 3. You know, there are different combinations, but again, if you ever forget, the piano roll is probably a useful tool just to remember which way's up, and remember stuff like the E and F and the B and C that don't have gaps, just to make sure that you get your numbers right, in case you can't fully trust your ears to see if things are in key or not. So, let's use this example then. Let's say that we know that Ascend is in F sharp minor, and we want to get it to A minor, so we pitch it up 1, 2, 3. So, there's these two pitch knobs. What this range is, you can see on the top left, pitch knob range semitones. So if I set this to 3, then if this is at max, is going to be +3, and if this is at minimum, it's going to be -3. And you see, it does it instantly. Granted, if you already have this on something like stretch, and you pitch this around, it's not going to need to recalculate. But even on resample, you can pitch this, and as you can see, there's no need for it to stretch or anything. The other difference between these two pitch knobs is that this one, if you right click, you only get these options, whereas for this one, you can initialize the song with this position, create an automation clip, link it to controller. So personally, I am more of a fan of using this pitch knob and just setting the range that I want. Plus this one goes up to 48 semitones, whereas this one only goes plus or minus 1200 cents or 12 semitones. So this is the one that I'm going to use, but you can use whichever one you like. So we want it to go up 3, so we do pitch up 3. And if we head back into the drop, and again, now it's in A minor, but as you probably noticed, it is a lot faster now, which I imagine you do not want. So that's where we get our stretch mode handy again. And once we click it into stretch, it's still in A minor, but it's in the same BPM as before. And that's basically everything I wanted to cover in this fundamentals video, just talking about keeping tracks in BPM and keeping tracks in key, you know, using a resource like the M catalog to see what key and BPM tracks are in so you know how much you need to change them so that they match up, and thinking about, you know, converting between major and minor if you need to do that as well. And that's basically everything for this first one. In the next video, I'm going to be talking about some transition techniques. So I've got the end card set up so that it should be showing the next video in the series right now. If it's listed as private or unavailable or whatnot, it's because I've got it scheduled. So it's not up yet, but it should be up by tomorrow. And yeah, again, make sure to join the Discord if you have anything you want to talk about. And yeah, I think that's about it. So I will see you guys in the next one.